In a Michelin-starred kitchen, a black dishwasher silently endured a chef's relentless cruelty and venomous racism. But beneath her calm exterior, a storm brewed, one that would topple the tyrant and expose the truth. What happened next shocked everyone. Let's begin. La Perfection was the epitome of culinary excellence, a Michelin-starred restaurant celebrated by the city's elite. Its black and gold facade radiated sophistication, and inside, the dining room exuded elegance. Crisp white tablecloths, sparkling silverware, and warm ambient lighting set the stage for a dining experience that attracted celebrities, socialites, and critics alike. But beyond the dining room's serenity lay a kitchen ruled by chaos and fear. Chef Daniel, the restaurant's celebrated head chef, was a man of contradictions. At 45, his culinary genius was undisputed, but his temper was infamous. His piercing blue eyes could spot an imperfection from across the room, and his sharp tongue often followed. The kitchen operated under a constant cloud of tension. Every clang of a pan or hurried, "Yes, chef," carried the weight of avoiding his wrath. Daniel demanded perfection, and mistakes were met with humiliation. Grace, a 68-year-old black woman, joined the restaurant as a dishwasher. Her quiet presence was an anomaly in the frenzied kitchen, where tempers often ran as hot as the stoves. Grace moved steadily through her tasks, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the volatile energy around her. She didn't seek attention, but her steady resolve and kind smile made her hard to ignore. On her third day, it happened. A plate emerged from her station with a faint smudge, barely noticeable, but enough to ignite Daniel's fury. He stormed toward her, brandishing the plate as if it were an insult to his reputation. "This is unacceptable!" he bellowed, his voice cutting through the din. "Do you think this is Michelin-star quality? Do you even care about what you're doing?" The entire kitchen froze. Grace stood still as his words lashed out, sharp and scathing. "Maybe you're too old for this job," Daniel sneered. "If you can't handle washing dishes, why are you even here?" His tirade continued, his voice echoing in the silent kitchen. The staff avoided her gaze, unwilling to intervene. But Grace didn't flinch. She met his anger with quiet dignity, her calm presence unsettling in the face of his rage. When the outburst ended, Grace simply returned to her work, her expression unreadable. As the kitchen resumed its frantic pace, a subtle shift lingered in the air. That night, as Grace left the restaurant, her mind was already turning. She had seen men like Daniel before, their egos unchecked by accountability. But she also knew that change often began quietly, with resolve rather than confrontation, and Grace was nothing if not resolved. The morning after Daniel's outburst, Grace moved with quiet determination. She brought her phone into the kitchen, discreetly recording Daniel's tirades whenever they erupted. His voice, sharp with condescension and anger, filled the small files on her device. She spoke privately with other staff members, listening as they shared stories of relentless criticism, humiliation, and the stress that haunted them even outside work. Piece by piece, Grace built a damning record of the toxic environment Daniel had created. At home that evening, Grace reviewed her evidence. The recordings captured Daniel's verbal abuse in raw detail. Combined with testimony from the staff, a clear picture emerged. Daniel wasn't just harsh. His behavior had created a culture of fear and burnout. Grace knew what she had to do. She arranged a meeting with her son, Marcus. Though Daniel didn't know it, Marcus was the owner of La Perfection. He had asked Grace to work there incognito after rumors of a toxic workplace reached him. Marcus had hoped his mother's calm nature would provide an honest look into the reality of the kitchen, but even he wasn't prepared for what she shared. Sitting in Marcus's office, Grace played the recordings. Daniel's voice rang out, laced with venom. The testimony from staff painted a bleak picture of life in the kitchen. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his face a mix of anger and disappointment. "This is worse than I thought," Marcus said, his voice tight. As an owner, he felt responsible. As Grace's son, he felt a personal sting knowing his mother had been subjected to this treatment. "It's not just me," Grace said gently. "This isn't about one person. It's about everyone in that kitchen, and the reputation of your restaurant." Marcus nodded. The evidence was undeniable, and he realized the implications extended far beyond the walls of the kitchen. Staff morale was in freefall, and complaints were starting to surface online. Recent reviews mentioned stressed employees and a tense atmosphere. Marcus knew that if this continued, La Perfection's star wouldn't just dim, it could disappear entirely. "This isn't just a problem," Marcus finally said. "It's a crisis, and it ends now." That afternoon, Marcus called an emergency meeting. The tension in the dining room was palpable as the kitchen staff, waitstaff, and Daniel assembled. Daniel arrived last, his crisp chef's whites immaculate, exuding confidence. He assumed this was yet another routine staff reprimand and settled into his chair with an air of indifference. Marcus began. "We need to address some serious concerns about this workplace," he said, scanning the room. His tone was firm, but he hadn't yet revealed the bombshell. Daniel leaned back, his arms crossed, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Concerns?" Daniel said, his voice dripping with mockery. "This is a Michelin-starred kitchen, Marcus. It's not supposed to be easy. Excellence comes at a cost." Marcus's expression remained unreadable as he nodded toward the door. Grace stepped into the room, carrying her phone and a stack of handwritten notes. The staff exchanged nervous glances, their eyes darting between Grace and Daniel. Daniel's smirk vanished. "What's this?" Daniel asked, sitting upright. Grace spoke evenly, her voice calm but unwavering. "I've been documenting my time here, Chef Daniel," she said. "Your words, your actions, not just toward me, but toward everyone in this room. I'd like you to hear them." She pressed play. The recordings filled the room with Daniel's own voice, mocking, berating, shouting. The staff winced at the sound, many reliving their own humiliations in the process. Daniel's face turned pale, and he shifted uncomfortably. "Everyone here has a story," Grace continued. "I asked them, and they told me about the fear, the insults, the exhaustion. This isn't leadership. This is cruelty." Several staff members began to speak, emboldened by Grace's composure. A line cook recounted being reduced to tears over a minor misstep. A waitress shared how Daniel's anger made her dread every shift. The room filled with stories that Daniel couldn't dismiss as exaggerations. Finally, Marcus stood, his voice low but sharp. "Do you understand who you've been disrespecting, Daniel? This is my mother." The room fell silent. Daniel's confidence crumbled, replaced by shock. He stammered, "I had no idea." "You didn't need to know," Marcus cut in. "You should treat every employee with respect, whether they're my mother or not. But you didn't. You've tormented this staff and jeopardized the reputation of my restaurant." Marcus turned to the staff. "This ends today. Chef Daniel, you are terminated, effective immediately." The room remained silent as Daniel rose slowly, disbelief etched across his face. He glanced at the staff, his once loyal kitchen brigade, but found no allies. They stood firm, united behind Grace. As Daniel left the restaurant for the last time, the tension in the room lifted. Grace's quiet strength had turned the tide, and La Perfection was finally free from the reign of fear. The news of Chef Daniel's abrupt dismissal spread like wildfire, igniting a media frenzy that thrust La Perfection into the spotlight. Articles and posts flooded social media, dissecting the scandal at the once revered Michelin-starred establishment. Former employees seized the moment to share their own experiences, painting a damning portrait of Daniel as a tyrant whose temper and unchecked ego left a trail of broken careers and morale in their wake. The weight of the allegations forced Marcus to act swiftly. In a heartfelt public statement, he addressed the restaurant's patrons and the wider community. "Respect and dignity are non-negotiable in my establishment," he declared. "We are committed to building a workplace where every individual feels valued and safe." The statement was accompanied by a promise to implement structural changes and prioritize employee well-being, a commitment Marcus meant to keep. As the scandal grew, so did the public's respect for Grace. Stories of her quiet bravery and steadfast resolve captivated the media. What began as whispers of her role in Daniel's downfall soon became a narrative of inspiration. Grace's actions reminded everyone that even the smallest voices could spark monumental change. Meanwhile, the restaurant began its transformation. Grace returned, not to the dishwashing station, but as a consultant. Her role was pivotal in reshaping the kitchen's culture. She worked closely with Marcus and the staff, implementing new policies that encouraged open communication, collaboration, and mutual respect. Gone was the oppressive atmosphere of fear. In its place blossomed a team that thrived on encouragement and shared goals. Daniel's career crumbled under the weight of the scandal. What had once been a name synonymous with culinary excellence now became a cautionary tale. Offers dried up, his reputation tainted beyond repair. His brilliance in the kitchen was no longer enough to shield him from the consequences of his arrogance and prejudice. For La Perfection, the scandal marked not an end, but a rebirth. The restaurant emerged stronger, its new ethos resonating with both staff and patrons. Grace, now a symbol of integrity and resilience, became a guiding force in the restaurant's future, ensuring no one else would face what she had endured. Ultimately, La Perfection's story became a testament to the power of accountability and the strength of quiet determination. It proved that no level of talent or success could excuse cruelty, and that even the mightiest figures could fall when faced with the truth. Grace's legacy was clear. One person's courage could dismantle an empire of fear and rebuild it into something far greater.